Well, hello, good evening and welcome to the Little Farmer's Farm with me, Guru Mafinda, aka Tony. Now, we had a tip-off about some bean poles. Somebody called us up and said we've got some bean poles and would you like a couple? And we said yeah. I'm never shy about bean poles, boys and girls. But we didn't realise how monstrous these bean poles were. They're about 12 feet long and they're really thick. But they're going to be ideal for them long beans that we've got. Got 3 long bean plants. Show you. You can see them, they're sticking out of the car. Yeah. They're the length of the car though, so they're about 12 feet long at least. I'm going to measure them when I get them on. But they're going to be ideal. They make a cracking teepee for those 3 long bean plants that I've got. So I can get them planted out today. Cushy. A little trick I found out recently, you can, I bet I can't do it one-handed this, but you can hook that into there. You push this rope up into there, the clasp will grip it. I'll show you. I'll have to pause it though, because I can't do it one-handed. Yeah, so if you push your rope up, it clicks back down on it, the clasp, and then you can obviously tie it there with the hook is. There. It's one I picked up quite recently. That's how we tied it down. I don't know the legalities of having it hanging out the back of the car, but it's the only way we could get them down, so you know, don't trust me on that one, but that's how we did it. It clips, like I say, it clips into there and then you can tie it off there at the bottom. Okay, top tip. So yeah, they're like the bamboo obviously, but the whoppers, aren't they? They're like, they were used as stakes for trees, so they were transplanting some trees in, and these were the stakes that were sort of keeping the trees straight. Obviously, once the tree's planted, the stakes are surplus to requirements then, aren't they? But we can certainly use them. We're going to be using them for them long beans. That's one of today's little tasks, that. Get the long beans in. Look at the size of that. That'll be a cracking climbing frame for the bindweed, that. They'll love that. They'll be made up. But that's going to have the climbing beans going up it. The long beans. These long beans that are in here. You can see they're showing much rampance. They're too big at the moment to stay in here. They've got to go out there, definitely. Same with the sweet corn there. We're getting the yellowing on the sweet corn. They all need nutrition. Those were the cucumbers that we put in last night. And already I can see there that they seem to be sort of greening up. Maybe it's an optical illusion, I don't know, but it looks like they are actually starting to green up a little bit in there. There's 2 left there. 2 more market more. In fact, there's 3 more market more there that need to go in today. But yeah, I'm contemplating getting the sweet corn out, but I'm definitely going to get the long beans out. There, I've got some string there. I was wondering where that string had gone. But anyway, yeah, let's get cracking. So before we plant them out, I'm going to do some thorough weeding if I can in here. Try and keep on top of that, because you'll see that there are bindweeds coming up. There'll be plenty of horses tail in there as well. You sort of go hand in hand. And I'll keep an eye out for nettle as well, but I'll get everything out that I can find in there, and then we'll top it off with a bag of that. Mix some soil amendments in with it as well. I'll get some 6X in there, and I'll also get some of the mix that we used yesterday, the stuff that we used for the cucumbers, which is the eggshells. So we'll have the eggshells, because they are a fruiting plant. Obviously the beans are the fruits from these ones, so we'll have them in. Nitrogen's what they need as well. They like the nitrogen, but we'll get the phosphorus and the potassium in there as well. Get the NPK levels sorted out and all the macronutrients. We're going to feed that as well initially before we get the flowers on. We're going to feed that with the nettle tea, and then supplement that later down the line when the flowers start coming on with the comfrey tea, because that'll be better for them, a more rich mix for the fruits. So we'll get this sorted out. We'll get it weeded all first, and then I might take a look at some of the other beds. There's plenty of weeding to do at the moment because the conditions have been fantastic for growth. We've had the warmth, we've had the damp weather, and everything's coming up weeds wise as well as plant wise, edible plant wise. So yeah, let's get cracking. Look at this bed. This bed had the cardboard on it, but underneath the potatoes from last year are bursting through, as well as the horses' tails. And bindweed, there's bindweed knocking. Horses' tails and bindweed, I hate it. Absolutely hate it. It's the pain in my neck. Horses' tails. Look at them. Horses' tails. This stuff's worse than flaming bindweed. That wraps itself around your crops and strangulates them. I bet I can get a feed out of that. Underneath there'll be potatoes. Same here. These are the ones from last year, obviously, but they started growing again. Now there should be some small spuds underneath there. That's going to be filled with potatoes again, but I don't want these unwanted ones in there. I don't want last year's in there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They'll grow into plants, but I want the nice rows, and I want to be able to know what's in the ground, what crop varieties and what have you. But that's just me. But yeah, let's have a look through there, see what we've got. Now, most of the time when you're taking wayward potatoes out like that, they're like tiny little tiddlers, and you can understand that when you've dug them out last year, you've missed them because they're small. But when you're getting ones that are like full-size spuds, I often wonder how the hell did I miss that, you know? Let's see what we've got. This is what we pulled out of the wayward spuds. Just pour them out on here. So you can understand things like that, obviously. But when you're talking like these are Sarpomera, and they must have continued on growing or swelling in the ground. These ones are Red Dukes of York. So we've got Red Dukes of York. I'm thinking we've got some Charlotte there as well, the little baby Charlottes. And we've got these, I mean, you could do chips with these. All out of them beds there, I've just been rooting through. Sometimes it's worthwhile doing the weeding, I guess, isn't it? Right, so this is our main weedy area. So we'll get this one done first, I think. We'll start with that bed because that's like a wildlife or a wild plant garden, isn't it? I'll get a bucket of water first so that when I take those sugar stealers off the dandelion heads, I can put them straight into the bucket of water so the seeds don't go all over the place. And that bucket of water will be tipped off site. So I'm going to get that done first, get the seed heads off. Then I'll pull all the weeds out, which I'm guessing, looking at that bed, will leave very little compost underneath. It'll leave very little soil underneath. They've all been lined out, these, you know, with the weed membrane. It was a complete waste of time, that, putting the weed membranes in. A lot of you have been talking about the old no-dig method, Charles Dowding. I'm going to get my head into that this year, because that'll hopefully help with the weeds. I've been a bit resistant to it because I had the feeling that there'd be like a sort of a nursery ground for slugs and things like that, and snails, getting all the straw on top and what have you. But the general consensus is it's better to have the no dig. So I'm going to be looking into that this year. Certainly paying it more attention than I have done in the past. You can't be a traditionalist all the time, and I'm not really a traditionalist. It's whatever works, you know. That's a joke. It's no joke really, is it? It's ridiculous. All those are plants, these weeds are plants that are unwanted. They shouldn't be there, don't want them there. They're serving no purpose to me to feed the family with. So So it's all got to go. Got to keep on top of it. Because if you look on this, at this time of year, you probably can't see it from there, but there's hundreds of dandelion seeds which are coming off from these seed heads, these sugar stealers. Or I think they're called clocks or something, aren't they? I don't know. Anyway, it's full of seeds. All of that is seed. Yeah, all of those are seeds, and they spread all over the place, as you can probably see. They're absolutely everywhere at the moment. You're fighting a losing battle with them. But the more I can keep on top of that, the better. So that's the plan. So I'll get all this sorted out now. This is probably going to take us about an hour to get all of this area weeded, because I'll have to move all that timber. Again, I'm shuffling timber about and detritus about at the moment. It's getting on my nerves, but it's what you've got to do, isn't it? So all these have got to come out. I'm going to try and stop saying so much, and we'll get some work done. Let's get that wheelbarrow up to the top and tip it off. Okay, now hopefully you can see there that I've both beheaded and drowned the seed heads in the water. The reason for that is that when I get stuck into that, I'm going to be rough weeding that. I'm going to be dragging it up as quickly as I can, because it's going to be a pain in the backside otherwise. You can't delicately hand weed that. That's going to have to be dug out. And while I do that, what will happen is, if I hadn't have taken off those seed heads, the seed heads will have released all their seed spores, and they would have gone absolutely everywhere, right? The wind blows them about, as you know, with these dandelions. One there as well. I'm gonna whip. So yeah, we'll take all those ones off first before we get into the rough weeding, and that way you minimise. You're not going to totally stop the weeds, obviously, but you're going to minimise it. You're going to minimise that spread to other people's plots and all over your plot. It's going to be minimised as best as you can, and that's all you can do. You can only do what you can. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to get all that ripped out of there into the barrow and up to the top and tipped over the side into the valley. It's not environmentally destructive. That is our section that we're filling in of the valley there. We're building up the land at the top there by doing that, by getting rid of all the weeds and getting rid of everything and tipping it over that side. It's an organically friendly way of doing it, because it will rot down then and it'll become soil in the end. So that's what we're doing. But we're going to get all of that out of there now, which is going to take me a good half an hour at least, I'm guessing. There's some onions that are left over from last year, so I'll see if there's anything decent on them onions, see if we can eat them. But once that's done, all of that's going to be ragged out, as they say in Wigan. We're going to rag it out and get it all out. The same with the top there. I'll have to move all them timbers like I spoke about before. So better crack on. Oh, now, I think this year, for the sake of my sanity, if nothing else, I'm going to cover that bed in the same way that we did with the third bed there. That's got the buckets in, and when I grow above like I'm doing there, I'll show you. So I have de-weeded the bed, and that's all I'm going to do on that today. I'm not going to do the tops and the surroundings, not just today, because I've had enough of the weeding for today. It can drag you down, the weeding. It's sort of soul destroying. It's like painting the Forth Bridge. As soon as you've finished it, you've got to start again. But I'll keep on top of it, obviously, but I just can't face it today. It took us an hour and a half to get that out. And it's absolutely full of horses' tails. You can still see some of them popping up. Nettle, stinging nettle. Horses' tails. Creeping daisy. You name it, we had it. Apart from, strangely, the bindweed. There wasn't any bindweed in there. But I've cursed it now, haven't I? It's going to have a good crop of bindweed in it that next week. But no, I'm going to cover it all over. I'm going to cover it in the same way that I covered this, because it worked. That impervious, totally impervious cover works. The weed membrane doesn't work. Doesn't work against bindweed or against horse's tail. It's just useless against those. You know, it might be alright as a ground cover, for a temporary ground cover, to stop your perennial weeds, but it doesn't stop. Sorry, to stop the annual weeds, but it doesn't stop those perennial weeds from coming back. Nowhere. That was full of it. There must have been about 1,000 horses' tails in that. But what there was in as well was some rather decent spring onions. They were all right. A couple of ants there having a chomp. They weren't too bad. So that's a bit of a bonus, isn't it? But yeah, I'm pig sick of weeding. It's not my favourite job. I've said it before, haven't I, about the therapeutic benefits of weeding and how I can't get my head in that game. Wish I could. I'd be in a permanent state of nirvana if the therapy was right for me, but it's not. So I'm going to get that covered up. I'll see if I've got enough of that Corex. I'll show you the Corex. It's like plastic. It's like corrugated cardboard, but it's plastic. It's like a really thick sort of a cardboard stuff. You can do temporary flooring with it on building sites and stuff like that. I'll show you. That's it. Corex. I think it's 4mm. Corex. C-O-R-R-E-X. It's impervious, so there's nothing can get through that. Or, as far as I know, there's nothing that can get through that weed-wise. You just need to tape it all. I'll tape it all up. I mean, that's just a plastic sheet. Nothing can get through that. That's a solid plastic sheet. It'll grow underneath it, but it won't be able to bore through it. The horse's tails and whatnot. But that's going to go down. I'm going to tape that down. I've got some black tape in there that somebody gave us. Well, that's from skip diving, that. It's like a temporary flooring stuff. It's a protective sheet for the flooring when they're working in properties. You put that down. It's more robust, obviously, than just a polythene sheet or whatever. So but I only had like one sheet of it that I'd discovered. So it was behind the shed. That was as well. So I put that on top as well. And what I'll do now is, like I say, temporarily I'll just put some bricks on top of it, but tomorrow it'll be filled up. You can get 18 of those Tesco cut flower buckets into a bed like that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get more spuds out tomorrow. Now, I'm going to put 2 per bucket, 18, that's 36. There'll be 36 potato plants growing in there, and it'll utilise that space. But I'm loath to put more fresh compost on top of the weedy one. That works. It suppresses the weed. When I pulled it off, there was hardly anything at all underneath that. So I've left it back on because I'm growing in the buckets again above it in the containers. I'll be doing exactly the same with this here. And then hopefully all I'll have to worry about then is the odd one popping up around the perimeter. And you can just deal with them. And it'll save me mental health. Seriously. It gets you down. Constant weeding. I'm going to sort this out. I've been speaking to a guy this morning as well about getting the wood chip drops. Getting more of the wood chip drops. A good 2 or 3 inches of wood chip. Again, that helps. You can see there are weeds growing around the periphery. There are a few weeds growing. That's creeping buttercup around the periphery. But I can deal with those. I can just go around with my hoe and keep on top of those. That's not a problem. But when it's absolutely everywhere, and you've still got to deal with it, it's not in your growing beds. I'll cope with the growing beds. But when it's all on the paths and all over the place, it's not right. It is right. It's nature's way, isn't it? But it's not difficult. Or rather, it's too difficult to keep on top of it. You know what I mean? You want to be down here growing, planting, tending to your crops. You don't want to be constantly weeding. At the moment, 80% of the time I'm spending down here is in the weeding, and you've got to do the weeding. So there's no way around that. It's just that it's a right pain in the... Well, you know what? It's a right pain. We'll say neck, because I've got a bit of a sore neck. Thanks very much to Not Just About Ducks. It's Angie, I think, isn't it? Not Just About Ducks. The sort of shrugging, hold the shrug, and then let it release and stretch out. That's worked a lot, that's helped quite a lot, that. Must be a trapped nerve or something, or maybe arthritis coming on, because I get a bit of that, you know, when I'm doing this. It's like the Tommy Cooper joke, isn't it? Don't say, it hurts when I do that. He says, well, don't do it then. So I'll stop doing that. Right, boys and girls, take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you tomorrow for another exciting episode. Well, hopefully a more exciting episode than me just weeding and putting membranes down. We're going to get the crops out tomorrow. We're going to get those long beans in for the start. I'm going to get the sweet corn in as well. And I might even do the trellis for the spaghetti squash. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully there'll be some gardening going on apart from bloody weeding. Right, take care of yourselves. We love you all. Bye-bye now.